What is up, everybody, and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be doing something that I have been wanting to do for forever. And by forever, I mean for about as long as I've known about these knives, which is like 8 months. But man, I am so pumped, guys. This knife is an Eclipse made by Tuch, Bill Tuch Knives. This knife is on loan to us from the man, the myth, the legend. It is Mike, aka Heels with Steel. Check him out on Instagram. And I was introduced to Bill's work through my friend Aaron Winger. He purchased an Eclipse himself with full carbo quartz scales a while back. Talked to me about the knife, showed me the knife at Blade Show of 2018, where I got to play with it, and I really fell in love with the knife in the pit when I was playing with it the first night of Blade Show. I had gotten to try a lot of Aaron's, most spectacular pieces. I got to play with a Stan Wilson non-flipper flipper and the Stefano Nardelli non-flipper flipper and all these beautiful knives, but it was the Bill Tuch Eclipse that really captured my attention. And I just ever since have been really wanting to get one on the channel. I've talked to Bill many times. I ended up speaking with him the next day at Blade Show in person. Had a really nice, long, pleasant conversation with him at his table. And I've had many long conversations with him about his work and everything else since then via Instagram. So one of my favorite things about Bill is that, man, he is a tried and true enthusiast. And he is an artist, and he is so stoked when you're stoked on knives. It doesn't even necessarily have to be his knives. He'll talk to you about other people's knives that he thinks are spectacular. But really the point that I'm trying to make is that this guy will talk your ear off if you let him. And I think that that's a really great thing because any maker that's really excited just about making in general and everything like that is always somebody that gets me excited as well. So let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the aesthetics before, again, I get my fingerprints all over this thing. So you can see this particular Eclipse, we are looking at beautiful black carbo quartz scales, gorgeous Damascus bolsters and clip. Absolutely fabulous. Gorgeous liners that we're going to talk about at length at some point here. A hand rub satin blade. I think I need to wipe it down. So you might be thinking, wait, what? How did you just open that? What just happened? The Eclipse is a double action mechanism, meaning in some capacity it is a normal meaning in a normal capacity it is a thumb stud flipper, but also an automatic. So we're going to go ahead and close the knife, and you can see right here I've hit the back spring. So I'm going to load the back spring again and click the knife into place. And then I'm just going to casually open it as a thumb stud knife. And you can see, even though it's on washers and everything, I can shake it shut, which you obviously can't do if you're fighting the spring. So we're going to talk about the mechanism, we're going to talk about the handwork, and yeah, let's just go ahead and jump in. So I guess the first thing to do is really talk about some of the aesthetic features on this knife. So Bill comes from the art knife world. He was a career art knife maker. And as sort of he felt he needed to transition into sort of a broader market, he's tried to bring some of the aspects of art knife making into the tactical knife price bracket. Now, he has a son as well. I believe his name is Eric, off the top of my head, who is helping Bill make flippers, like normal standard folders as we're used to seeing. And so those knives that are coming out of their shop are being made by his son, who's also learning how to do hand engravings. So that's something I'm super stoked on. And then Bill is working on these double action knives. Now, some of the features that you get from sort of the art knife world, one, just this mechanism is absolutely insane. Again, we'll deep dive into that in a moment. But even just some of the features that, yes, if you look really hard, you'll find these features on some other tactical folders, but rarely is it all sort of in tandem together. And this is really done to a substantial level. So we can see we have a hand-turned Damascus thumb stud. Absolutely beautiful. And then I really, really want to focus on these liners because these are my favorite thing about the knife, and probably the most impressive feature on the knife once you sort of learn about them. So if you want to anodize some titanium liners, there's a few ways to do it. We're going to get some examples out here. Let's see. I need one second. All right. So there's a few different ways that you can do titanium liners. So I think the first and most standard that everybody's used to seeing is like lightly polished, right? This is pretty normal. These are not mirror polished. You know, they've had a nice satin applied to them and then they've been anodized. That's pretty standard. You can also like the sabotage. You can also sort of just blast the knife, and then what that's going to get you is something like on this Richard Rogers knife. You can see on these liners, see that kind of iridescent sheen. It's almost multi-dimensional. These have been blasted, media blasted, sand blasted, which gives them a nice little texture. And so what happens is when you anodize, because the anodizing is in all of those little nooks and crannies, one, it doesn't sort of wear away quite as quickly as a smooth surface might, and two, you get that dimensional shine. Look at that. Oh, so beautiful. And that's just because you're not looking at a smooth surface. Now, of course, you can straight up mirror polish your titanium liners and then color them, such as we see on this Thorburn. So that's another option, just that full polish, full mirror. And then you can get this done by hand, and that is where Bill Tuch comes in. So if you take a look at these liners, you can see that same iridescent sheen we had from the blasted liners, but you can see it's quite significant in comparison. It's almost far more obvious that there is texturing, and you kind of see multiple colors popping through. Now, I almost didn't believe this when Bill told me that he did this, but these liners have been hand-stippled. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. All these thousands of dots that you see along these liners, every single one is an individual motion all the way around. And so not only does it do such a great job of preserving the anodizing, it also fucking looks amazing. And it gives you a really interesting, like, multicolor. You can kind of see it's like blues and purples, especially when you sort of pull it away. Really, really spectacular. So, obviously, I'm a total sucker for that. I'm a total sucker for handwork in general, and to find out that, you know, you can blast it and get something almost as good, but no, this guy is doing this shit by hand. Now, of course, there's a substantial price difference between this and a Richard Rogers Shorty, so don't for a minute think that I don't recognize that that's a thing. But if you are willing to pay, boy howdy, do you get your money's worth with this. Now, something else that's super cool, and you might have seen it as I was sort of showing off the knife, we'll sort of start jumping into the mechanics of the knife now, is that, so, you know, he's got this beautiful contoured frame, you know, the liners and everything, the bolster and scale. Everything is beautifully contoured along the handle. And as many of you know, if a knife maker, you know, custom makes a clip, you know, if they want it to sit flat, they have to either contour it to the same shape as the frame, or they have to build some sort of standoff system. So what you can see here I'm like laughing at myself as I make this video because I'm just so flabbergasted by how awesome it is that Bill does this stuff. So you can see the clip itself contoured to the shape of the frame, the undercarriage of the clip itself contoured to the edge of the frame, and then he complicated things for himself even more. He still made himself a titanium standoff, and he did the hand stippling to match. Are you kidding me? Look at that. What? Unbelievable. Unfucking believable. God, I love these knives. So amazing. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into what this double action thing means. Now, of course, if you're already familiar with this isn't going to surprise you too much, but I know that when I first encountered this knife, I was like, wait a minute, what? So for those of you who are in the same boat as me, let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. So again, it is double action. Now, this knife, in a very standard sense, is just running on washers and is a normal folder. So you can flick your thumb stud and close the knife. You can roll your thumb stud and close the knife. And quite frankly, if you never told anybody, this knife could last 100 years on this earth, being passed through dozens of people, and no one would ever know that it does anything other than open with a thumb stud. It does that so well that you could very well just think that that's what you're working with. But the reality is there is a spring system in here, and the way that it is activated is pretty hard to figure out. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys. What we have going on here is a full-scale switch. It's not a button. I think a button implies that you press down on something. You don't press down on this. It's more like a switch. So the first thing that needs to be pointed out is that this Timascus bolster and this carboquartz scale are one unified object. Now, when I asked him how he marries the scale to the bolster, he ended up having a very long conversation with me and never actually answering the question. I don't know if he didn't want to spoil the secret or if he just got ahead of himself and we just started talking about other stuff. But if I had to guess, and again, this is a total guess, I would think that on the underside of these, that they're puzzle pieced together and then epoxied together. But whatever, however he does it, these are a unified piece such that if I push on this bolster, you can see the entire scale and bolster assembly moving past the liner. Guys, that's the switch. The whole freaking scale is the switch. Unbelievable. So you can see here the spring is moved forward. You can see his signature in there. And then if we go to close the knife, again, it is normal, normal, normal until we hit the spring. And then we load that spring with the tension and it locks into place. So again, all we're doing is applying a reverse motion against the scale bolster setup in this direction. Show you guys this a few times. So again, push, you can see the liner exposing itself. That's the best way to see the motion. And that's what we're working with. Oh God. It's so funny how flustered I get when I make videos about knives that I'm actually stoked about. Like I just have difficulty putting it into words because some of these things, man, you really just have to try it to like understand why it's so freaking impressive. But ultimately, what we're looking at here is the fit and finish of a absolute pro. Beautiful, amazing mechanism. And guys, it must be said, this whole freaking thing is made by hand. Now, you guys know I have a deep appreciation for handmade, but there's no CNC work on this knife. all of the impressive work that he's done to make all of these things fit together and still have this crazy double mechanism action is all, again, done by hand, done with the care and precision of a lifelong career knife maker, and just somebody who absolutely brings something so amazing to the tactical knife market. He really makes something that borders on being an art knife, affordable to a tactical knife buyer. These knives, depending on the build that you want and the materials that you want, go from anywhere between like $2,000 and $4,000. Like, yeah, that's expensive, but it's not really that expensive in the world of custom tactical knives. Especially when you talk about, the makers who do all handwork versus those who do some handwork and none. Those prices vary. And it's just, I just think he brings so much to the table at such an affordable price that to not own one of these knives is a total injustice. And of course, I don't have my own yet. Certainly something that I have on the list of things to get, because, man, these knives, just every time I get to play with one, every time I see one, they just absolutely blow me away, and I think it's the coolest thing ever. So again, we have a pretty simple blade, a little hand rub satin finish. If you want to get in touch with Bill, place an order for a knife, find out where you can meet him at a show, you should not have any problem hitting him up on Instagram and getting a response whenever he has a free moment. And again, I just can't recommend his work enough. I think it's absolutely amazing. You can see I haven't even shown off some of the handwork, the contouring here in the clip. Beautiful shaping. Look at that. Oh. Up here as well on the bolsters. Amazing work. Such fine work. Oh, man. Of all the knives that I have on loan from Mike, I gotta say, this is the one that I don't want to send back. This thing is so sick. Thank you all so much for watching. Of course, if you'd like to see beautiful pictures of this knife, you can do so by following me on Instagram at tovarishworks. You can follow the owner at heelswithsteel. Go follow William Tuch, Bill Tuch Knives on Instagram. Check out his work. Hit him up. Say hi. Introduce yourself at a show. Let him know that you saw the video and that you're interested in learning more, because I really can't recommend it enough. I think anybody that really plays in this market and can afford to just, add another $3,000 knife to their collection whenever they want, if you don't have a Bill Tuch in your collection, you are doing yourself an injustice. You got to go get one. Super cool, super unique, and just something that is totally unmatched, I think, especially at this price point, but definitely in the tactical market. So again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Bill for making such a cool knife. Thank you to Mike for sending it along, and I will see you all next time.